Do you have any tips for anyone that's looking to renovate?
Don't do it right now if you don't have to. If I had my time again, I probably wouldn't have done my reno at the time that I did. I probably would have waited a little bit longer so it was newer when I sold it. Anyone that's doing a reno, speak to someone like you or me and go, am I better off putting $1 here or $1 there? Because there's places where you don't need to spend the money and there's places where you do need to spend the money. I'd say most of my business is people that I've kept in touch with for a long time, and that's a big part of it. I'll always be honest with people, but I always pre-frame with people now that there are desperate agents out there at the moment. Be mindful, we're running at about 50% of normal stock levels in springtime. Do you really want to be Mr. and Mrs. Vendor, one of those people who believes what you hear, you go out with false expectations and then you're disappointed from the start? You're never going to be guaranteed success, but putting yourself behind the 8 ball anyway by being lied to.
What do you believe success is?
I don't put it down to work because I'm one of those people that's never really going to be satisfied. For me, it's probably more, how am I up here? How am I in here? Am I healthy? Am I being a good person? To me, that's successful. Being able to help other people is successful.
Hello everybody, welcome to episode 2 of the Real Estate Show. Today with me we have Simon Pintado from Buxton Bentley. He's the director. He's been in the game for 13 years and wanted to get him on because I met you probably, when did we meet? About a year or two ago?
Yeah.
And I've known of you. I've known of you, followed you for a while, obviously being friends with Dim, followed his journey and seeing how you guys have been smashing the game, especially down in the south, And then, wanted to, obviously, we've got Fedra Bilic, who is from the office. He's joining us here today to have a discussion. So, Simon, thank you for joining us, mate.
Pleasure, mate. Thanks for having me.
Man, so how did you get into the game? What's your story?
I've said it on 1 or 2 podcasts before, but I started on I start from the start. Finished school and then went to uni for, I think I lasted about 6 months, studying occupational therapy, and just found that I was arguing with the lecturers most of the time. Just wasn't for me. I thought maybe it's OT that I don't like. So I moved from that into arts commerce and I lasted about 8 days. So I failed on attendance and then took 6 months off drinking, partying and all that.
Living the dream.
That's it.
Yeah.
And my missus at the time, I was at her dad's 50th and me and this guy that I just met were drinking together and he's like, what do you do? I'm like, I think I might want to get into real estate. He's like, my best mate works in real estate. I'm like, who's that? And he goes, Chris Hassel. I'm like, that's the dude that I want to work for. And then 3 months
later. Did you know
later,
the guy was just like, I love him. Like, he's the guy.
I knew him.
Oh, you actually did. Yeah.
I knew him because I'd seen him sort of roll around. At the time, he was like 25, 26, pretty successful at the time. And I'd seen him driving around this big silver Mercedes. And I'm like, that's the dude that I want to be like. So I started on my 20th birthday. Sorry, I lied. I started on my 20th birthday at Buxton Carnegie. And I got fired after 3 months.
Nice, what'd you do?
Nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Nothing at all, is it?
Mate, I put like 330 people on my database cold calling. Like I was going hard, but I was working 7 days a week.
So you were working, you were putting in the effort.
Yeah.
And you just couldn't get it.
Their whole office. Yeah. So it's interesting, the story. The day I started was my actual birthday. We rolled into where we used to do our sales training in Milano's in Brighton. And my 2 bosses at the time, one was driving, and I know this sounds really bad, one of my bosses was driving like a 95 Holden Corolla or something like that. Yeah. And the other one was driving like a 80s BMW. And I'm like, okay, this isn't really what I pictured real estate like, but whatever. Our whole office at the time had 3 listings. Yeah. We went to this sales training and Haas pulls in an ML 420 Silver Merc. And he's like 26, he looks, young, looks the part. I'm like, who's that dude? And they're like, oh, that's Chris. And anyway, then we went to the Bentley office. I walk into his office and he's listed 3 that morning and he's got 15 on the board. I'm like, can I swear on this?
Yeah, go.
I'm like, this is the fucking guy that I need to be working for. Yeah. Anyway, so at the end of my 3 months, they're like, it's not working out. I'm like, that's fine. I don't really enjoy this anyway. And then I went to my girlfriend's 50th, met up with Haas and then, started off as his PA and the rest is history.
That's crazy. So even for yourself, like, what did you find in that first 3 months that what was it? Just you don't feel like you had the training? Like you don't...
Zero training. Yeah. No training.
Yeah.
It was literally like, you're working 7 days a week.
Yeah.
We expect you at 8. You're here till 7. Yeah. Here's a phone. Cool. Find a listing. Yeah. It's like, I don't know how to find a listing, dude. Yeah. I don't even know what to say to anybody. Yeah. So I was literally like, you know what? I'm literally just going to call every fucking street, get as many people. I know you're not selling, but hey, can I put you on my database and keep in touch? It was literally as simple as that. Funny now, like 13 years later, the people that I was cold calling are the ones that are selling with me now.
Yeah.
But no training. It gave me the worst impression of what real estate was like. You know, from the people I was learning from, and no disrespect to them, but the people I was learning from and the office environment. And then when I went to Bentley, it's like you're driving a Toyota Corolla and you go to Ferrari. It's like, this is what a car is supposed to be.
Yeah. And
You
there
know?
was a lot of systems in place when you got
Yeah.
there. Was there training, or did you have to go off and do your own kind of
Training
learning?
every week.
Yeah.
We still do.
Yeah.
We train every Tuesday,
Okay.
scripts and dialogues.
Yeah.
Has taught me how to auction. I train the younger guys now how to auction, and the girls too. But it's an office that was busy. I was led by a mentor that was busy. Number one office in the group. He was the number one salesperson in the group, and he was sort of 7, 8 years older than me. I'm like, this is the dude that I want to be like. So I could sort of see the way through his guidance as opposed to before, where it was like, these guys aren't even that good. Like, what am I doing here?
Yeah. And but why did you so is it something where you just left or you got sacked? Like, was it?
They fired me on the last day of my 3-month trial period.
Yeah. Okay.
The last day.
Yeah.
And I remember I left and I'm like, fuck this industry. I'm never going back again.
Yeah.
If this is what it's like, I want no part of it. And then obviously everything happens for a reason.
Yeah.
Lucky I was getting pissed with Hass's best mate.
Yeah.
Basically.
Sometimes that's the best way.
And you know what? So Muzz, the guy who referred me to Hass, ended up getting Sam for Chris, and Sam's now our business partner. Sam writes $1 million a year.
Yeah.
He's been such a good feeder for like young guys to Hass, and it's all been over beers.
Yeah.
All of it.
I feel like it always is. Even like how many of your clients that
All of it. Mate, I spoke with, I was working with us for maybe 6-7 years, and we went to Singapore, and I was chatting to Craig, my other business partner, at the bar for like 8 hours. We were just drinking beers, and we worked out our game plan for me to buy in. It's how we do most of our stuff. Not to say it's alcohol related, but it's never in the office.
Yeah, I feel like
All
it's
about
just humans, man.
That's
being
it.
outside and interacting with.
Yeah. And how do you find, like, even as well, like, I'll just use Collins for an example, that we're pretty, I don't know, I don't feel like we're very, straight down the line and, to an extent of like, it's very agenty in a sense of like, it's very scripted.
Yeah.
Do you feel like there's other, like franchises or something like that really are, like, some agents are very, like,
Absolutely.
just solid, like, and how even just making connections and things like that, like, is it, I don't know, how do you guys find?
It's a fine line for too much personality and not enough.
Yeah.
It's also, I think there's certain brands that can pull off
Yeah.
wearing what you wear.
Yeah.
There are others that don't. Like, where Buxton are becoming a lot more corporate than what we were before, because we're selling a lot more homes that are 10, 20, 30 million dollars as opposed to $500,000 units, So like for us, you can show your personality, but at least at our Bentley office, we're pretty strict on like, it's navy blue and white because that's what the, top of Collins Street high-flying corporates wear. It's the most trusted colour combo. It's not offensive to anybody. So there's a fine line. I think you can show your personality and flair in video, on your social media, to your own clients, but we are structured a little bit in how we want to be presented to the marketplace.
More as like how about more as like as a personality basis? Like, do you find like even people getting listens? It doesn't have to be Buxton's. It can be just in general. Like, agents are even very scripted with how they are.
For sure.
Robotic.
Yeah, like very robotic.
Yeah, there's an art to scripts and dialogues. If you follow Panos, you sort of know.
Yeah.
It's knowing what to say, but it not sounding like a
Yeah.
scripts session,
Yeah.
You need to know what to say in a way that has got your stamp on it.
Yeah.
Because there's stuff that Hass says that I can't say it that way because I'm really blunt. That's just how I am.
Yeah.
I call a spade, and I'm very black and white. I can't be a chameleon for everybody. So there's some people that like me, and then there's people that are like, fuck that guy.
Yeah.
I don't want to use him. Yeah. So it's an art. As you know, you got to know what to say, but you've also got to know how to say it in your own words.
Yeah, sometimes you're just not going to win them all. It doesn't matter even if you're number one. Like, some people just aren't going to gel with you. For
The more you miss, the more you're in on.
yeah.
How do you deal with the part where you go in and you don't actually get the listing. You just kind of
Happens
move
all the
on.
time.
Yeah.
A lot better now than when I first started.
Yeah.
Simon's there with the bat, like,
Yeah. You know what? And it's all learning because like I'd get the bad news phone call, I'd be like, and I know I'd list it to a certain competitor and I'd go that person and they'd hang up the phone and be like, I'm glad I didn't pick that guy.
Yeah.
So you sort of got to be, especially now, especially in our area, there's a lot of agents that are, if your house is worth 2 mil, they're telling you it's worth 2.5.
Yeah.
And you'll get it the second time around.
Yeah.
So you got to be gracious in defeat, but the more doors you're in, the more you're going to miss.
Yeah.
It's just a fact of the business.
But even how do you deal with that? Because I feel like that's generally like just, I'm sure it's Victorian based, Australian based. Like we go into a property and I always always try to tell the team just be honest, tell them the exact truth and what it's worth. Yeah. But then there's sometimes you lose it where they'll go to the agent that, for example, you quote it 2 mil, the other agent says 2.4, 2.5, then you don't get it, and then sometimes it obviously they'll crunch the vendor, and 70% of the time they'll
get it done.
Yeah, they'll get it done. How does that how do you kind of deal with that?
We're big on, I'd say most of my business is people that I've kept in touch with for a long time. And that's a big part of it. There are people that I've chased for 13. It's happened to me 3 times in the last week. They're like, yeah, we're selling, but we've listed with this person. I'm like, no opportunity. Like, I fucking called you for 13 years. I've given you all this stuff over the years, and then you don't even give me the opportunity. Bad. It's like a bad breakup.
So much time invested.
That's it, man. But the thing is, if you're juggling more balls, some of them are going to drop, some of them aren't. Yeah. Haas always said to me, he's like, the busier you are, the less you're going to give a shit about the ones that you miss. Yeah. If you've got 2 listings and you're going in for 2 more, like those 2, you need to get them. But if you've got 12, you're like, whatever. Yeah. Always be honest with people, but I always pre-frame with people now that be mindful. We're running at about 50% of normal stock levels in springtime. Yeah. There are desperate agents out there at the moment, and you can tell by the amount of pass-ins that are happening at the moment. Do you really want to be Mr. and Mrs. Vendor, one of those people who believes what you hear, you go out with false expectations and then you're disappointed from the start? You're never going to be guaranteed success, but you're putting yourself behind the 8 ball anyway by being lied to.
Yeah. It's what's obviously a bit of a downfall in our industry, and categorises ages every time you kind of speak to someone already. We're on the back foot.
100%.
We're on the back foot. But I think it is what it is, unfortunately, and we're just going to keep navigating that. And it's what separates, even for yourself that you've been smashing. It separates you from the rest. Just being honest, transparent, and getting the results.
What you say to your team is bang on. If you're honest with people and you miss the business, at least you're honest.
Yeah, that's what I say. I say I'd much rather lose your business knowing leaving here I've explained to you and told you the truth, rather than winning it and then me lying to you, because I can't lie to people.
Yeah.
I'll go home and these guys know better than anyone else that I can't, I'm a shit liar.
Yep.
And I can't sleep
at
night.
So passing out.
So I pass out, but I'm probably underpriced.
Well, the other thing is you say to a vendor, it's like, what's the easiest thing for me to do as an agent?
Yeah.
Tell you this price and do it for this commission.
Yeah.
That's the easy part.
Yeah.
Because you sound great, you feel good. Oh my God, he thinks it's worth this and he's doing it cheap. Like, there's got to be a sting in the tail, There's Subway around the corner here, or you can go to the nice Italian restaurant. Yeah. You can get a feed both ways, but one of them's going to make you feel shit, the other one's going to make you feel good. The hard thing for me to do is be honest with you and maybe be a little bit too conservative on price and maybe charge a little bit more, but at least I'm being honest.
Yeah.
What do you feel like, what separates the B graders, the C graders from the A graders? Like, what's the...
Lip service, man. Yeah. We train every week, and there's a couple of guys in my office who I'm on their ass about, because I'm like, he gets up at 7:30. I'm not going to say his name, but he gets up at 7:30. I'm like, how many super successful people do you know that wake up at 7:30, bro? How many? Because I'm up at 6, and I'm in the morning. I'm walking for an hour. I'm doing an hour sauna. I'm listening to podcasts. I got 2 hours up on you before you've even had your coffee. If I'm doing that and I'm 13 years in, how far behind are you? So I think everyone can hear stuff and they go to seminars, they write shit down. It's like, I'm going to do this. But actually fucking doing it is a different thing. Yeah. Picking up the phone and doing 50 calls a day, as an example. It's easy to say that you can do it, but Are you doing it day in, day out, week in, week out, month in, month out, year in, year out?
Yeah.
Because your GCI doesn't lie.
Yeah.
You know, I think that's the difference.
Yeah.
Is people that are doers and people that are sayers.
So,
Yeah, that's one thing I want to get in with you was I follow you on Instagram and I've seen you're up in the mornings, you're doing the hot cold stuff,
Yep.
which I've been like last year I've gotten into, started in summer last year with the cold showers just because it was fucking hot.
Yep.
And I kept doing it all through summer. I set the challenge, can I do this every single day for this year?
Yep.
How big are you on kind of routine structure? Do you
Huge.
have like a set thing of everything that you do every single day?
Everything.
Yeah.
Everything gets tiresome for me. I'm probably the most manic out of anyone in my office, but I'm a believer that if you schedule it, it gets done. And I always operate better when I'm physically fit, when I've had my cold shower, done my sauna. It just switches me on.
Yeah.
Did you find the cold water like changed?
For me, it was a sense of, I watch a lot of, like listen to a lot of podcasts, read a lot of books. It was just like, I wanted to set the challenge of actually doing it every single day.
Yep.
And the tough part was when winter hit, when you don't, like the last thing you want to do is jump in a cold, like just cold water and see if I could last that. Because now it's nice.
Yeah.
Now it's actually refreshing like the last few days. But that, I like that just to add that little bit of discipline to do that. And normally I'll go to the gym in the evenings.
Yep.
I've added that to doing it in the mornings.
Yep.
So before, and I live 40 minutes from the office.
Yep.
So it means I have to get up earlier.
Yep.
But honestly, since I started doing that, I feel a lot better getting up in the morning. It sets my day.
It's also done then.
Yeah, it's done, and I can go home after work and I have to stress about going. Then I can chill out and do what I want to do after work. So
routine sets you free, man. In my eyes, I was never disciplined growing up.
Yeah.
But it's sort of something I'm like, if I just have this routine in the morning, it sets up my day. So my days are always the same.
Yeah.
I'm up at 6, I'll go for a walk. I used to take the dog, but he can't do it anymore. And then I'll have a sauna and I'll do the cold hot. And I'll go into the office and I'm on the phone till about 11:30 and then I go to the gym at midday every day.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
That'd be nice.
Every day.
Yeah,
It's the
That'd be
best.
nice, yeah.
You know what? My mornings is for calls.
Yeah.
I don't do appointments in the morning.
Okay.
Then you go to the gym, it's like, cool, reset, suit up, bang, you do your appointments in the afternoon. But, mate, I know it sounds horrible, but I wouldn't work past 6 o'clock most days.
But do you try and maximise your day in that period?
Oh, man, like, I'm the most productive. Yeah, when I'm there, I'm on.
Yeah.
So, like, I'll do 50, 60 calls between 9 and 11:30.
Yeah.
And they're good quality database phone calls.
Okay.
And then I'll go to the gym and then it's only appointments in the afternoon. So the hours that I'm there, because there's other dudes in my office that are there from 8 till 8, but they don't get half as much as done as what I do.
Yeah.
But I think that's also part of, if you set your morning up right, by the time you get into the office at 8:30, mate, I'm firing, like I'm on.
You're
you
awake.
know?
Yeah, because I've realised that whole sluggish period when I used to take that drive.
Yeah.
I get to the office, I feel even less
Yep.
awake by the time I get there. But
Yep.
now I'm a lot more energised and I feel my mind's ready to go.
Yep.
What about when those days, do you ever get those days when you're kind of like, fuck, I didn't do enough?
All the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how do you deal with that? Is it just like next day, reset and just go?
When the day's over, it's over.
Yeah.
That's the way that you got to
Yeah.
look at it. And especially in our job, like you could be pumped in the morning, you just pumped, like secured a massive listing, and then that afternoon, 2 people from your database go, you see a board up at their house, like you can go like this. The aim is, instead of going like that, for me, it's like to try and just not have the highs as high and the lows as low. And the cold water really did that for me.
Yeah.
Because it's the hardest fucking thing you're going to do all day. It is, especially in winter, when I'm getting in the ocean and it's 5 degrees or 3 degrees and I'm like, this is fucked, I don't want to get out.
Yeah.
But then calling that vendor or missing a listing, it's not going to be as difficult as that.
Everything's easier, for sure.
That's funny, man. What do you feel like? So you've been in the game for 13 years. Like, was it something where as soon as you got in, like do you feel like from the start that you were just this consistent beast, or how long did it take for you to kind of get going?
Get rolling?
Yeah.
So I remember my first year with Haas, obviously still his PA, I got 10 listings, the next year was 23, and then it just went from there. I think it takes a good 4 years, 5 years before you build any traction whatsoever. There are anomalies that, in 2 years, there's heaps of them, man. Not heaps of them, but there's a few of them where they'll go write $1 million in their first year, and it's like, fuck, good on you.
Yeah.
But most people can't do that. Most people, you go from 150 to 250 to 400 to 600, and then for me, I sat around that 6 to 850 for like 3 years, and I was just like, what can I do? What am I not doing right? And then you just reassess your business and change it, and then it goes to $1 million, then it goes to 1.5, and
What was the switch you made? What do you think it was? Was it
delegating, man.
Okay.
Like only doing the stuff that's going to make me money, whether it's now or in the future. So it's prospect, list and sell. That's all I do.
Yeah.
And you've got to be able to afford to have an assistant,
Yeah.
but admin is the most important part of the business that I don't want to be involved in any way, shape or form. Like I don't want to fucking set my open times. Put them in my diary and make sure that it works, and that's it.
That's
you
it,
know,
I'll be there.
exactly. And then I think once you've got that part down pat, and you're like, okay, cool, I've got my admin part down pat, and my sales side of it is pumping along, and then you need help with that. That's when you look to get someone for sales as well. So I think it should always be admin first,
Yeah.
or a hybrid role.
Yeah. For sure.
What's been like, I don't know, your favourite part, or even just like the most challenging part of just the journey so far?
The hardest part for me was learning. I was a good agent or a competent agent, but then learning how to train an assistant. Well, we're not trained how to do that.
Yeah.
Like you can be a gun agent, but then if you're a gun agent, you're normally highly stressed, highly busy,
Yeah.
and then having the time and the patience to train people, which I've had to learn. Like I was working out last night. I've had 6 in 13 years.
6 PAs?
Yeah. 2 of them have gone on to be super successful.
Yeah.
The others have sort of either left which is part and parcel of our job. But like Dimmy's killing it.
Yeah, he's doing
He
really
left me and writes $500,000 in his first year.
Yeah.
Like fucking awesome.
Yeah.
It's exactly what I want. Frenchie, my PA before him, he's writing the same down in Chelsea, and that's like good. You've put in that work, but training assistants, and especially now because I interviewed 2 this morning. If I'm going to invest 12 months of my time training you, I need to get some buyback that you're going to stay with me for 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 years. Because imagine training someone, because it's happened to me heaps of times, you train someone 6 months later they leave, or 12 months later they
It
leave.
happens.
Fuck, wasted
It
money.
happens.
It happens a lot. It's
So now I'm more cautious about, I'm slow to hire, quick to fire now.
Yeah, I love that one. I think it's always hard. Like you invest so much time, but then someone could change where, I don't know, they turn around and tell you know what, I'm not, they could be a gun, but they turn around and say I'm not feeling it anymore, and they go right, or another agency offers them something. Like it's that apparently it's too good to refuse. Like it's always so hard. Even I know it's a really weird one, which is probably extreme, but like they could pass or something.
Yeah.
Like, I know it's extreme. I know it's never happened, but
Yeah.
it's always, you never know, man.
Of course.
Like, which is always weird, but. I think at the end of the day, like your strike rate's pretty good, man.
Yeah.
And it's bloody happening. I think so. Even for yourself, like how did you get to that director level? Because that happened 12 months ago?
Nah, I bought in 5 or 6 years ago now.
Oh, what?
Yeah, a long time.
Oh.
So I've always pushed for it. It was always like my
Yeah,
goal.
wow.
Like if I'm going to work here, I want to be. Yeah, long time.
I remember. Didn't you post something?
It's probably a memory. I had so many clients text me like, congrats on
okay,
buying in. I'm like,
okay.
I bought it ages ago. It was just a memory.
Maybe.
But mate, you know what? That was probably a challenging part too, because you go from a salesperson to becoming an owner of the business, and you got to wear a different hat. You know, all those pissy little listing disputes you've got with people in your office, you've almost got to be like, okay, I'm not an agent anymore.
Yeah.
I'm going to be business owner.
Yeah.
How do I approach this? Like Sweden instead of Russia. Or
How do you keep the relationship between? Do you guys hang out outside the office?
Yeah.
Or is it quite just?
nah,
always nice
we're
to-
friends before.
Yeah.
We've always been a people business.
Yeah.
We always go away to Greece, and all of us together at the same
Yeah.
time. We've always been mates before business, and
Okay.
we've always put mateship before business. And it's always been, that's how we've sort of worked out who's right for the business
Yeah.
and who isn't. Because
Yeah.
if you don't fit our mold, then you can't
Yeah.
you can't really work with us. Because we're big on culture, you know. You want to be a business where people want to come and work for you rather than you needing to go find staff.
Yeah.
So that's We're big on that.
Yeah, of course.
It's always about the person before it is
Yeah.
the dollar.
Yeah.
Do you find that there's many, agencies that are like that, or like what's the
Big on the dollar, not on the people.
Yeah.
Heaps.
Yeah.
Heaps, man. I won't mention the company, but there's one it's fallen apart in my part of the world now. And a lot of their gun operators are coming and working for us because it's like dog eat dog, and that's like 1980s shit.
Yeah.
There's enough for everyone to eat.
Yeah.
There's $2, $3, $4 million agents in my area, and I can still do my 1.5. Jimmy can still ride his 500 starting
Yeah.
from nothing. Like, there's enough for everybody. There is.
Yeah.
You don't have to clip your mate or clip your colleague.
Yeah.
Clip the dude down the street.
Yeah.
Or the woman down the street.
That's what I've never understood. Like, even for example, like you're in the same office, you're under the same team, and people are literally like
But the team does.
Yeah, like
Everyone does.
they're just
Yeah.
killing each other.
It's like, that's my list and that's my vendor.
Yeah.
You know what Mark Earl, who's one of our CEOs of the whole company, he said to me, he's like, it's not what you think your relationship is with the clients, it's what they think of you.
Yeah, it's true.
Because if they don't call you or somebody else manages to get in and they list with them, it's like, well, then you didn't make a fucking good impression, did you?
Yeah, it's true. It's a good point. Yeah. How do you generally, like, let's just say if someone, and I'm sure it happens, like if two people are kind of going at it, it's my listing. How do you kind of resolve that?
Split it.
Yeah.
The easiest option is like, you know what, I'd rather half of something than all or nothing.
Yeah.
Just split it.
Split it, shake hands, move on. Yeah.
And you know what, it'll come back around too, because it's inevitably going to happen multiple times over the course of the next 20 years,
Yeah.
And you don't also want to have, I also don't want to have a reputation, whether it's with you boys who work on the other side of the city or other agents in my area or people in my own office that think he's a dog.
Yeah.
That's just not the reputation that I want.
Yeah, bloody oath. Going more into just the whole property market conditions yourself. Are you looking at buying or selling at the moment?
Yeah. So I sold my house last week.
Yeah.
I sold my first place by myself off market.
Yeah.
This was years ago now, and got really lucky with the price. And I thought this time I'm like, you know what, I'll do the same thing again. Not on market, just if I've got a buyer, I'll flick them across. The lady that bought my house came through first time in April. We're in fucking November, dude.
Yeah.
She's been through 4 times, building inspections. I finally did the deal last week, and I reckon I'll never sell my own house again.
Really?
I'll get somebody else to do it. But I did it because mine's renoed, so I was like, it's worth more now
Yeah.
because of construction costs than it's probably ever going to be.
Yeah.
The reno's only going to get older. Sell it now, and I just got a rental on Beaconsfield Parade for 12 months
Yeah.
because I'm going to pay 20% of what I was paying on my mortgage on rent for a joint overlooking the water for 12 months and just save bulk cash and buy next year.
Yeah.
Because I think, I wouldn't tell most people this, but I think next year it's going to get a lot harder.
Yeah.
I think it'll get a shitload harder. You're seeing it everywhere, man. Bitcoin dropped 7.2% yesterday.
Yeah,
Like, it's a
it's
lot.
the whole that it was one of the biggest exchanges, FTX, crashed, and they've lost that. The guy was worth 28 years old, worth 16 billion. He lost 15 billion in 24 hours, and it's just crashed. Gone. And so that's literally destroyed everything. And it's funny, like you look at the crypto markets are getting decimated at the moment, and like property. Bonds, stocks, they're still kind of holding up okay. But what's going to happen when...
We're in this weird perfect storm now where there's 50% of normal stock levels for agents across the board.
Yeah.
So there's not 1,500 auctions every Saturday.
Doesn't feel like spring.
Doesn't feel like spring at all. It's the quietest spring I've ever seen.
I was about to say, this is like the first time, I've been in the game 10 years, the first time that I've kind of like felt like it's whatever, it doesn't... it's weird.
Yeah, I'm not working my knuckles to the bone every day. So there's no stock.
Yeah.
Interest rates are going up, and there's a lot of people at the moment that are holding on for dear life as these rate rises go up. There's a lot of people with fixed rate mortgages under 2% that are all going to finish in the next 6 to 12 months.
Yeah.
Imagine you got a $2 million loan, maybe not around here, maybe you got $1 million loan, and all of a sudden you got to find an extra 40 grand a year. It's a fucking shitload of money, even if you got a couple of people. So there's going to be a lot of people that go from 2% to 5.5% that aren't going to be able to afford their mortgages. When that all happens, there'll be people that need to sell, not wanting to sell. And I think that'll happen sort of middle to springtime. This time next year, it'll...
Do you feel like we're in a recession now, or?
I don't really know too much about the economy to say we are. I feel like we're heading towards something serious.
Yeah. So I know they say China's in a recession, Europe's obviously in a recession, America's denying that they're in a recession. But if we do, like, there was something that happened in 2008 with the housing market in America. Apparently the banks did something in 2006. I haven't really looked into it. I've literally just skimmed over it. 2006, and that's what escalated the whole crash of 2008. And apparently banks came out the other day and said, yeah, we're doing something similar. So if so if the housing market does crash, like, do you think and then again, you're not in the comment, it's just a question that no one's going to hold you to it, but do you feel like even in Australia, like, we'll probably feel the full effects of it? And
you know what? For us, we're lucky. People always need somewhere to live.
yeah.
The hard part about our job is it's normally a 3 to 5 month window where the market changes, vendors are still here, buyers are here. It's just that transition period.
Yeah.
When the market finds its level, we just trade at that level.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this. Do you reckon the market could drop 50% the next 12 months?
No.
Maybe not, right?
No.
But who would have thought it would go up 50% during COVID?
Correct. Yeah.
Who knows?
It's true, it's a good point.
And there's always a buyer.
Yeah.
There's always a fucking buyer.
Yeah.
You buy a house on the corner of Warrigal and North Road, you could sell it in any market if it's priced right.
Yeah. It's true.
So there's a buyer always. It's just you just got to be in line with the market. So I think as agents, we're always going to be fine for the good ones, the ones that can have realistic conversations with people, the ones that don't overexpose themselves, that aren't living with fancy watches and fancy cars that they can't afford and living an unrealistic lifestyle. I think we'll be fine. Plus, with the market changing, a lot of the low-hanging fruit type agents, they leave, and it's good.
Yeah, just to clear out. I think there's always, we've gone 2018 was after
Royal Commission.
That was
hard.
Yeah, that was hard.
Yep.
That went for, I felt like that was 6 to 12 months.
Yep.
Just tough. And then you look at 2020 when the news came out. Obviously that was tough. And then now obviously we're going through some tough times. But I just feel like if you are purchasing in these times now, okay, it might drop an extra 5, 10, 15. It could, like you said, 50.
I don't think it will go 50. I think there's another 10 to go.
Yeah, but even then, like if you're gonna buy and like you said, you don't have the expenses which are nuts, and you're looking to live in it within, and hold on for the next 5 to 10 years, you're never gonna lose.
That's what you say to people. I say to people all the time. Like if let's say I pass it into a buyer and we're negotiating, like, oh yeah, but I don't want to overpay. I'm like, listen, are you gonna day trade this? You're gonna buy it today and sell it tomorrow? Because you're gonna lose money if that's the case. Yeah. But if you're gonna buy this and hold it for 5 years or 10 years, you're safe.
Yeah.
Really, like you are.
It's true. Like it's historically, like anyone can go back and have a look. Like it's the prices just continue just to go up, and even I feel like we do look at like the rest of the world. Like let's just use America for example. They trade heavily in crypto, tech startups, stocks, bonds, property. Where here in Australia, I feel like everybody is. Like, well, not everybody, but 90-something% generally is, I want to buy a home, I want to buy 100%. A home. It's like the Australian dream, buy a home. So I feel like it's more heavily like this, this category generally tends to perform really well just because of the demand of it all.
And by comparison to New York, Paris, London, we're cheap.
Yeah, it's true.
Even by comparison to Sydney.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. It's like, it's always gonna be a desirable place to live. Everything's just price relative, man.
Yeah. So you think this will last for another 12 to 18 months somewhere there?
Mate, I've just got this cheap little pimping little rental. I'm just gonna say bulk cash, and then be cashed up, ready to go next year.
So what would you like? What would you be looking to invest in? Is there a specific type of property?
Something to do another reno. Yeah, on a big block, north or west facing, good street. I don't really care about the suburb. Yeah. Anywhere Bayside doesn't bother me.
So it stacks up.
Yeah.
Yeah. So even going back to your reno, were you in there? Did you put the did you get your tool belt? Yeah.
Absolutely not. The dirtiest I got was I lived in my bedroom while the reno happened. and I'd never do that again. Man, I'm the most like, nah.
I'm
These
with ya.
hands
I'm
go to the
with
gym
ya.
and that's it.
I cut my nail the other day and I was like, what?
Nah, not for me. I got my mate who's a builder. I'm like, this is what I want. I've picked everything. There you go, dude. You do
When
it.
you're going through that process of the whole reno, were there things that you were looking for to do to increase the value of the property? What kind of things were you like looking at?
Good question. So my missus said it to me the other day when it went unconditional. She's like, she made a little speech and got a little bit emotional. But when I bought it, I wanted to buy something single level, 3-bed, 2
I saw
bath.
the photos from what it was to
Yeah. I was like, I want to buy something that a downsizer is going to want.
yeah.
And that I can enjoy. It's sort of a step up for an apartment. It's not a house. It's that middle price range. And I just wanted to make sure the whole place was single level and done well, because it's in East Brighton. It's a good part of the world. So I just did everything high end, how I would like it, you know. And we're lucky we see enough good houses to know what's popular and what's not offensive. And I designed it for a downsizer bought it.
Yeah.
It's amazing. Do you have any tips for anyone that's looking to renovate, like anything?
Don't do
maybe-
it right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd be waiting.
Yeah.
Like don't do it right now if you don't have to. If I had my time again, I probably wouldn't have done my reno at the time that I did. I probably would have waited a little bit longer so it was newer when I sold it. That's all hindsight. Anyone that's doing a reno, speak to someone like you or me
Yeah.
and go, am I better off putting $1 here or $1 there? Because there's places where you don't need to spend the money and there's places where you do need to spend the money.
Yeah.
Yeah. Where do you feel like you went wrong? Like what mistakes did you make?
My reno,
Yeah.
the builder I used,
Yeah.
no offence Lockie, but
Yeah.
he's a mate of mine. I just wouldn't use him again.
Yeah.
Mixing business with pleasure, just it's okay. It's okay depending on the person that you are doing the business.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is like if you're someone that's a go-getter, reliable, you say what you're going to do and you do it, go for it. But if you're someone like who I use, probably not.
Yeah.
What else would I wouldn't live in my room while it's all happening.
Yeah.
Me, my dog and half my furniture. I just
Yeah.
would never do that ever again. Move out, don't go see it.
Yeah.
See it once a month. Don't go see it every day.
Yeah.
Because it's like watching
How
grass
long did
grow.
the process take?
It's supposed to take 3 months, took 9.
Yeah.
I had a portaloo in my driveway, no bathrooms in the house. Lucky my gym was over the road, so I'd shower at the gym, and then
Shit.
it was horrible.
Oh, that's a bit intense.
Yeah, it was horrible. So next time I'll be staying in a rental, and I'm like, you go do your thing for
sort
sure.
it out. How do you feel? How do you feel in regards to like building costs and stuff like that? Has it gone pretty crazy?
People have still got money to do it. Builders are more worried, and I'd be the same because their margins.
Tough, man.
Yeah, dude, their margins have shrunk a lot. Price hasn't come back for land as much as what construction's gone up. So it's sort of like they're getting double dipped, if that makes sense. If you can afford to do a reno and you can afford to pay cash for it, do it. But I wouldn't be getting money from the bank to do a reno.
Fair. And how did you find it? Obviously, you were the selling agent. Being like a vendor on the other end, how did you kind of?
I was a greedy vendor, bro.
Yeah.
I was. I admit it to everyone too. You know what? And it was good being on the other side for me talking myself into reality of what it's really worth and selling it for what I sold it for. The other part of it was like, what would I tell a vendor now? Because she offered me 40 grand less than what I wanted.
Yeah.
She offered me 186 and I really wanted 19.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, fuck that. I'm going to hold out for the 40. I'm like, what would I tell a vendor? I'm like, I'll be telling them.
Yeah.
This 186 is going to be a 17 in 6 months' time. You're mad if you don't take it. So then did it. But I was probably just too close to it, man.
Did you
I
get
told her that it was my
emotional
house. Yeah.
attachment?
I'm not emotionally attached to houses.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I'm just not.
Yeah.
Like I sold it last week. I settled in 2 weeks. Like it's like, I'm out. My missus is so upset. I'm like, it's my house. I did the reno.
Yeah.
Like, I don't give a shit. But yeah, just I don't get too emotionally attached to it. But
Why do you feel like? I feel like I'm the same. I've got no emotional.
it's a house.
attachment.
It's not a home.
Okay.
It's a house.
Yeah.
And a home is what you make it. And also, like when I left my apartment, because I, did that up and made it look good, I was like, I'm never going to find an apartment like this again. I should keep it. And I moved to my new joint. I'm like, fuck the apartment. This joint's mint. And the next one's going to be even better.
Yeah.
Like, I know, like I follow Marty. Marty and I have been friends, Marty Fox, for a long time. And mate, he's done it like 13 times.
Yeah.
And he bought that joint on Beaconsfield Parade and that was like the house that he wanted forever, and he sold it within a year, and he's like, well, it's just not meant to be. Like the next one will be fine. I sort of look at it the same way. It's just a house.
That's crazy. Do you have, so even on your next one, do you think you'll just literally just keep flipping all the way through?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Principal place of residence, no tax,
Yeah.
and we get fisted on tax. Like we do. So the more money you can save, or the more money you can make without having the tax man put his greedy little fingers in there, and that's the way to do it. Principal place of residence. And for us, especially being in the know, knowing that you can add $1 here and get $3 of value, why wouldn't you capitalise on it? Plus, it also gives you experience with clients. Like, oh, well, I did this with my renter. These are the windows I put in. This is what I did. That's where I wouldn't use that. Whatever.
Yeah.
Even like the cooling off period, like the stress of that, I got a newfound respect for it. Like we're pretty blasé. Sold, yeah, cool. No news in 3 days is good news.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'll call you when it's done. It's pretty like intense those 3 days, especially if an issue comes up. Like I didn't get permits for my reno. Who the fuck does really these days, unless you're doing a huge extension? And the solicitor calls me the day after the first day of cooling off, and he's like, we've got an issue. And I'm like, mate, you approved this contract with the building report in it.
Yeah.
What's the issue? Mate, that's stress for that 3 days for me while I'm working. Like, is she going to pull out? Is she not going to pull out? So being able to articulate that to a vendor when I'm sitting in front of them, like, why private sale or auction? I'm like, this is why you fucking auction.
Yeah.
So you don't deal with that.
Yeah.
So what are you finding at the moment? Even through this period, are you choosing to auction?
Yep,
And
100%.
And why are you choosing that method over private sale?
For that cooling off period,
Yeah.
subject to finance, subject to building inspection, pest inspection, all of those things. If you can avoid it, avoid it.
Yeah.
We quote super accurately, or I do anyway, because I want to put a price on it where if somebody wants to offer that, we're talking turkey, we can sell it.
Yeah.
So I'd sell 85% of my stuff prior to auction.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
So much better.
Yeah.
So much better.
So you'd rather obviously set it up to go to auction, just quote it, and then if you get the offers within where it sits, you'll
Do the deal.
You'll push it.
Unless you've got 4 or 5 that want to buy it, which I've got 2 this weekend where there's going to be 8 bidders at one and 6 at another, I might auction it.
Yeah.
What about with the product? If it's a house compared to an apartment, is it?
Yeah, definitely. It's got to be product specific,
Yeah,
and also the vendor circumstances, whether it's tenanted or not.
Yeah.
Mainly auction, unless it's an apartment in a block of 50 and they're all the same and there's 3 for sale. It's like to a private sale, you know.
But it's still funny, man. You're laughing about it, but they all still push for auction.
I know.
I'm like, what are you doing?
No. There's that many buildings where there's like a Hodges board, a Woodard's board, a Shield board, and it's like, why would you auction it? Just price yourself cheaper than those 3 and you'll sell it.
Yeah, I don't understand. Even how are you finding the market? I know obviously you turn on the news and people would be watching the block and they were seeing what happened.
I didn't understand the block, man. I didn't understand it. And no disrespect to any of the agents on there, but how can you have a reserve of 4 million and 80? I know you can in real world, but you have a reserve at 4 million and 80 and then you pitch it at 425 after. I know that happens in the real world and 99% of agents do it, but it's not a very good look for real estate agents as a whole.
Because they don't like us at half.
So what? I could have bought it for 4 million and 81 on the street under the hammer, but now you make me pay 4.25.
Yeah.
It just doesn't look
Yeah.
great. The market's good if you price right. It's still good. This is still not a bad market, man. Like during the Royal Commission, it was 45% auction clearance rates. We got 70%. It's fucking good. 70 to 80% is a normal market. 80% is a boom. So we're still good.
How do you feel like? So you obviously got people coming. You got 6 and you got 8 bidders on another. What's the average number of bidders you've seen per property? Yeah.
1.
Yeah.
Unless they're something pretty unique or
Yeah.
we've got the price totally wrong. 1. Maybe 2. There's a few where you have 3 or 4, but it just comes down to pricing it right from the start. And that doesn't mean quoting it under or underquoting. It just means pricing at a level where it's good value and then let the market decide after that.
So even if it, generally that average one, do you kind of get worried to take it to auction in a sense, even when you're speaking to the vendor? Because that's the conversations like I'm having with my vendors at the moment. You know, generally, you know, there's 1 or 2 buyers potentially on a property. If it's lucky, you might get that 3. 3 plus. So generally, it will depend. Like I went to one on Saturday. It was we were tossing up if we go down the private sale method or if we take it to auction. And it was a similar property that went to auction on Saturday. So I was like, all right, let's turn up and then we'll make our decision then.
Yeah.
We turned up, there was 2 bidders, flew. Like
Yeah.
I was sitting there like, this is crazy. It was probably more to the fact that it was the first one that's sold in the suburb like that, probably 6 months or so.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I was kind of thinking if there are going to be buyers, they're all going to go for that because it's what they want. So yeah, that kind of flew and that changed my mind. It was only 2 bidders, but I was like, okay, that's probably enough for me to say, okay, let's run that to auction. When you're speaking with your vendors, trying to make that decision, how are you weighing that up and knowing that potentially there is one? Does that kind of scare you to go down the path and say, hey, yeah, we'll get the offer beforehand and try to sell it,
Yeah.
but generally, it is a little bit of a risk as well.
Yeah, it's a risk. Depends how you run your pre-auction process.
Yeah.
So I'll run it the same. If I'm going to sell prior, I'm just going to run it exactly the same as I would if I was auctioning it.
Yeah.
It's like, you give me an offer of $1 million. Yep, we're on the market. That's
Yeah.
cool. But I'm going to call you. I'm going to call you. I'm going to call everyone else. Tell them there's an offer made. You've got till this time to make an offer, and we just run an auction over the phone, basically.
Okay.
You're just going to make firstly, you've got to be close enough to your campaigns to know who you got and who you don't. The other part is if you got one buyer, do the deal with that buyer. If you got 2, maybe play them off against each other. If you got 3, auction it.
Yeah.
But even if you think you got nobody, I would still go, you know what, let's call the auction on Saturday. Because unless it's a 2-bedroom apartment or something.
Yeah.
If it's a house or it's a development site, you never know. People roll up on the day. How many times have you sold a house to someone that shows up on the day?
Yeah. Literally.
So you create your own luck,
Yeah.
and you've got to be in it to win it. So
Okay, so you don't really overthink that whole process before. You just kind of
no, and I don't withdraw auctions either.
Yeah.
If there's like legit nobody, like I've had 3 people through a 4-week campaign, I'm like, hey, we probably got a private sale of this.
Yeah.
Or you have a significant price reduction. Like I'll have a price reduction after the first week if I don't get more than 10 groups in the first open.
Yeah. I think that's where that starts at that first initial meeting, building that trust.
Yep.
That's where I base like my business around is obviously like the first meeting being as honest as possible. Like they've got a set price of what they want to achieve.
Yep.
And I think I work off facts and I try and explain to them, this is why I think it sits here.
Yep.
They've had another agent come in, they've told them this price. Always willing to tell them, look, I'm happy to start at your figure.
Yep.
But then my advice, I see myself and Christian as like we're advisors.
That's right.
At the end of the day. So starting, like I'm happy to start it here, but I think being able to, get the owner to listen to you, it starts from that first initial conversation that you start with them. So that's what I found, like when it gets to that period of auction and we don't have anyone on it, sometimes, it gets a bit stressful for the owner. How do you manage their emotions as well?
Mate, if you talk to your vendor every day,
Yeah.
there's none of this.
Yeah.
You let them know every step of the way what you're doing. Like I tell my vendors, I pre-frame everything.
Yeah.
So like before the first open, I'm like, a bad open's 0 to 5. 5 to 10 groups is a good open. 10 or more is great. If we're anywhere in those first 2 categories, we've got to change something.
Yeah.
And it's got to be quick and it's got to be swift.
Yeah.
Because you get one chance at it.
Yeah.
And I say to them, I'm going to speak to you every day except for Friday and Sunday. Sunday's my day off, and Fridays I'm getting everything ready for Saturday. So I'll speak to you every other day. You don't need to call me. I'll call you.
Okay.
When it gets to that point of them needing to make a decision, if they've been informed the whole way,
Yeah.
there's no smokes and mirrors or I didn't know that was going to happen or that was going to happen.
Yeah, surprises.
Most agents fall into the bad habit of I'll call you on a Wednesday and Saturday after your opens.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah.
It's like there is no trust. But think about it. Let's say it's a $1 million house and it's 2%, it's $20,000 that they're paying you.
Yeah.
That's like any operation you're going to have, it's like 5 times the amount of any serious operation for 4 weeks worth of work. Like you need to provide value to them and explain to them that you know exactly what you're doing, you know who the buyers are, where they're coming from.
Yeah.
People are too lazy to pick up the phone and call their vendors, and then vendors are calling them.
Too scared to avoid that.
Have the hard chats first,
Yeah.
man. That cold water.
Yeah,
you do the
that's-
cold water
yeah,
first thing in the
yeah.
fucking morning.
Yeah.
I have all my files on my desk and I call every vendor first thing
Yeah.
in the morning. That way they don't need to call me for the
Yeah.
rest of the day.
Yeah.
And then they're like, Simon's across it. He knows.
Yeah.
We know who the buyers are.
Yeah.
We know who's coming through.
Yeah.
It's just
No,
transparency.
yeah.
That's all it is.
Yeah,
It's not a hard job. It's really not.
Pick up the phone.
And it's a lot of hours, but if you do it right and you treat people right, like you get,
It's people business.
that's all it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's the sentiment like? Let's just say in the south of Bentley and Brighton at the moment. How are you finding that market? Is there particular property types that are doing much better than others?
Yep. Anything that's walk in, do nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anything brand new, anything fully renoed, no problem. Anything that needs a bit of work or land value,
Yeah.
a bit harder.
That's what we found.
Which is exactly what I'm going to go buy
Yeah.
towards the end of next year.
Yeah. It's just because of those building costs. Are you finding? Stock levels are a little bit low, but even at that top end of the market, are you finding there are a lot of stock hitting?
Still heaps of buyers. Still heaps. Like the 2 auctions I got on the weekend, I think I've had 160 odd groups through one of them.
Yeah.
First I've had 55 groups. I'm like, what the fuck is going on here? It's like a nightclub in the joint.
Yeah.
And then the next one I had, which is auction on Saturday, had like 48 groups or something.
Wow.
There's buyers out there. You just got to make sure you're priced right.
How important do you think? I find buyer service and building a buyer, like the relationship with, even throughout the campaign. Like I'm dealing with a client now, a buyer that I just met in open.
Yep.
Building that relationship with the buyer through that whole process. How important do you think that is?
I don't really deal with the buyers
Okay,
for
yeah.
my stuff, and it's not because I don't want to.
Yeah.
It's just the way I structure my PAs. I
Yeah.
want them to get all the gold out of those, and I'll pay them. But if you meet someone at the first open, the hardest part is holding on to a buyer now. So if you meet them in the first open, there's 2 parts to it. If I walk through your house and I'm a renter, you're probably going to get treated differently.
Yeah.
It's just a harsh reality, right?
Yeah.
But if someone walks in, they got a house to sell, I'm going to service that person forever.
Yeah.
I think if you've got an interested buyer, you really need to speak to them once a week. And it's a, hey, I'm just giving you an update. I'm letting you know we had this many groups, almost like they're a vendor. We had this many groups
really?
come through. At the moment, there's you and there's 3 others that have got good interest in it. I just wanted to keep you posted. How are you looking with it? Are you still interested? Not? Because like you said, mate, people die. People have a car accident. People get inheritances. People go bankrupt. A buyer from, like, I was dealing with an advocate yesterday on one that I listed yesterday morning. He gave me an offer yesterday. I was going to sell it yesterday. The day I listed it. Calling, doesn't answer. Calls me this morning. He's like, oh, my buyer's changed their mind. I'm like, you're a fucking advocate, mate. Like, you gave me an offer 50 grand above what the person wanted half an hour after I listed it. I'm thinking, cha-ching, this is brilliant. And now the deal's off the table. So you do need to service your buyers throughout the process, for sure.
Yeah, it's crazy. And just on the die thing, I mentioned that actually one of the guys in our office, he's actually getting a listing because one of the agents from his campaign passed away, which is
Wow.
yeah.
Not from here.
No.
Different company.
Different company.
Wow.
Yeah, only a couple of weeks ago. So that's intense. How that can even happen. It's reality though. But yeah. How, like, if you're looking to purchase, like, what's some advice for what properties would you be looking to invest in?
I would say to anyone wanting to buy now, buy the house you want. Don't even worry about the market.
Yeah.
Buy what you can afford. Buy the house that you want. The market is the market. You can't pick it. That's it.
Yeah.
Even me, I'm being hypocritical. Even me saying I'm going to buy Middleton next year because that's what I'm trying to pick the market. Like, that's not the reality.
Yeah.
You know, if I find the right house tomorrow, I'll go buy that house. People get too focused on, I love this house, I want to buy it. Oh, but the market this. Oh, yeah, but rates that. It's like, well, do you want to buy the house? That's how I start any post-auction negotiation. Like, do you want to buy this one? Yeah. Okay, well, good. Then let's focus on how you buy it, not anything else.
Out of our control, yeah.
What are some advice for some people looking to sell? Like, what do you tell
Do
them?
your research. Do your research on the agent and the agency. At the moment, now's when you need a skilled sailor.
Yeah.
You know, when the waters are rough. That's when you need someone that knows what they're doing. Because the last 2 years,
Anyone could be an agent.
anyone, man.
That's what I
We were
started.
glorified door openers. We
That's
were.
I just felt like a security guard at a nightclub. Just standing
Here's a
there.
brochure. Enjoy the looks there at auction. That's all it was. Now, there's order takers and there's deal makers. The deal makers now are the ones that are going to not really see much of a change in income and that sort of stuff. Anyone looking to sell, I'd just say, don't go with the highest price. Don't go with the cheapest fee.
Yeah.
When has that ever been good? Ever. You know, it's nothing cheap is ever good, and nothing worth having ever comes easy.
How do you try to combat that? Because, you know, as you discussed before, there are a lot of agents that are just completely dropping hands to try and get the deal. And generally, you know, human beings, they do look for the cheapest things. It's just how we're programmed. So how do you combat that?
Mate, I went into one last week, referred in, never met the bloke before, deceased estate. I'm like, I got no rapport here. I'm like, I'll do 1.1%. I'm normally like 165 to 265. He calls me the next day. He goes, sorry, mate, we've gone with someone else. I'm like, can I just ask why? He goes, we went with whoever went the cheapest on the day. I'm like, what's 1.1%, man? How cheap are these dudes going?
Yeah.
It's part and parcel of the game.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, you can't do much about it.
Yeah.
That's why I'm a big believer in database, because the person that calls me from my database, it's like, come over, it's 2.2%.
Yeah.
The marketing's 10 grand. It's easy business. I don't mean easy as in like, cha-ching, we're
You
making
put in
money off
order.
these people,
Yeah.
but there's trust and there's
Yeah.
rapport.
Yeah, you built that.
Because there is, like, let me ask you boys, let's say you go, and I don't know what your average fee is, let's say you go get one that flies and it gets a 35 grand fee
Yeah.
versus one that you list it and it's going to be a 10 grand fee
Yeah.
and they're the same value. Like, as bad as it sounds, your energy, motivation, dedication to go over and above for that one that's going to be a 10 grand fee, I'm sorry, but it's just not there.
Yeah.
So you need to articulate that to a client and say, if I had 2 jobs and they're both for a teaching position at a really good school, and one of the jobs is 120 grand and one of the jobs is 80, and there's a teacher sitting on the computer looking at Seek, which one do you think they're going to go for?
Yeah, of course.
We are a commission-based industry.
Yeah.
If I've got a buyer and I can refer it to a client that's got a 1% fee or a 2.2% fee, and I'm going to get paid the selling component, which one am I going to refer that buyer to?
Yeah.
If you explain that to people in the right way without it sounding like commission breath, most people get it.
Yeah.
I think it's just always and we discussed it pretty much right at the start, where some people are just going to go with others for whatever reasons, and some people just have perspective on they look at something in their way, and unfortunately you just can't.
Yep.
Yeah, you can't change. So it is what it is. How do you see the real estate industry in general going over the next 10 years? I feel like from since I started to now, it's
Totally changed.
Yeah, it's totally changed.
You and I got in at the right time, no offence.
Yeah.
I just think it's going to get harder.
Yeah.
I think a lot of what's making it harder is they see people driving around in the nice cars and all that stuff, and they don't realise that it takes a long time to get to anywhere near that sort of level. So I think it's going to, the 1% will pull further away from the 99%, I think.
Yeah. What's some advice for people looking to get into the industry?
Be prepared to work your fucking ass off. Don't expect it to come quick. Expect to eat shit for 3 years, but eat shit under the right company and under the right person, and do all those menial jobs that most people don't want to do, but understand that it's a career, not a job.
Yeah.
And whatever you put into it, if you do it right and you do it consistently and you do it for a long enough time, like, we earn more than some brain surgeon, man. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah, I remember my first meeting with Christian rocked up. I before getting into it, I really kind of delved into the whole, because I was playing tennis before it.
Yep.
So all I knew was tennis. I messaged this guy, so I literally had no idea about the industry, and I said, mate, I want to get into it. I've been looking at it, and I understood from very early on that it's not going to be like this.
Yeah.
That you're going to be driving a fancy car. And Christian on the first meeting said, if you think you're going to be driving a Lambo next year, he's like,
Not going to happen.
and it's funny that for me to see a lot of people that, kind of see on social media, posting these houses, you're listing. From the outside perspective, people looking in think,
What a wanker.
what a wanker, but also they're thinking on millions.
Yeah.
Like, it's crazy to me that, obviously
It's a
can
perspective
happen.
thing.
It's a perspective thing, and I sometimes, that I'm trying to change the stigma around real estate agents. Like,
You know the best way to change it? Never put up a photo of your car or your watch.
Yeah.
Like, be a good person to a lot of people.
Yeah.
When I meet you, now I know who you are. If somebody ever asked me about you, I'm like, legend.
Yeah.
Like, I spoke to Emily about you today. She's like, legend. I'm like, yeah, I know. I'm seeing him in like an hour. Like, that's more important than driving around with your phone like this in front of your Mercedes sign. Like, people don't give a shit about that. People already think we're overpaid.
Yeah.
Bad.
And some of us are, but you know what? Probably 80% of agents in Australia make 60 grand a year. Like, fuck, getting out of bed for that 6 days a week for 60 grand a year. You've got to make it worth it. Otherwise, the stresses of the job is too much.
Yeah.
How important do you think it is getting out? Are you heavily involved in the community that you work in? Like,
To be honest, it sounds bad, but I'm not.
yeah.
Nah. I'm pretty much a recluse outside of work, man. I don't really go out. I did so much when I was younger. I probably did too much.
Well, in terms of going out, like
Going out, partying, dude. Partying. And I save it sort of when I'm overseas, away from anyone that I might know, before I let my hair down.
The shirt comes off.
Exactly. But when I'm here, man, it's like, I can't afford to go out on a Saturday night till 4 in the morning and then be shit till Wednesday.
Wednesday, literally.
I just can't.
Yeah.
And I'm 33, man. I feel like
what other stuff do you do outside to like for your like obviously you're big into fitness,
travel.
Yeah.
Aside from the last 2 years. Mate, all my money aside from property goes on travel, really, and buying into the business. They're like the three things that I do. I'd rather not go out for 3 months a year and then go away for 6 weeks and go all over Europe or South America or Egypt or whatever.
So more even, I feel like I'm the same. Like you're gonna go and just go and jump around, man.
Nightclubs are shit, dude.
Yeah.
Like I'm 33. I don't know how old you boys are, but like, mate, I'm a dinosaur in any of those joints. I can't do it. I'd rather go to a bar, have a mad dinner, have a few cocktails, and go home.
So do you find like how are you getting a lot of your business? Do you get a lot of business from people you meet? Like just for example, just going to connect. Like are you a guy that you, for example, I don't know. All right, you're into fitness, and would you go to like? Are you a part of like a fitness expo or like a fitness thing or gyms or?
Literally just database, man.
Yeah, so
that's all it is. Database and open for inspections.
So do you have
that's it. And social media a little bit, but I'm not actively trying to find clients on socials. It's just, hey, here I am. This is what I do.
This is what I do, and it's like,
yeah.
How do you feel like? What would be your percentage? Like for example, of I don't know, just other like it could be social media. It could be
20%.
Yeah. Okay.
I'd say 80% database, 20% like, hey, or database or referral is probably 80%. And then 20% is like, oh, there's a guy at the gym, hey man, I'm selling my house. Or someone messaged me on Instagram, hey, I've been watching, come over.
Is there like do you feel like for agents, is there like a one size fits all, or do you feel like everyone's
different, man. There's so many ways to skin a cat. Like, I mean, my own experience, like I caught up with Chiminello like quite a fair bit when I was younger. Like he's got like 400 people on his database, man. The dude writes $6 million a year. Yeah. Like that's totally opposite to what I do.
Yeah.
Like mine's all about database, put as many people on there as possible. Some people in my office work, as I said, from 8 till 8 and they just like feeling busy. Whereas I'm like, I'd rather work 5 hours a day, 6 hours a day and have all of my shit done and have a better balance. Yeah. So, there's not one size fits all, but hard work and doing it, like I said, the sayers and the doers, you can tell who's actually doing it and who's not.
So even like, for example, even in your office, like let's just use, let's pick 10 agents in your office. Are they one really into the community, another's really big on social, another one's going hard on his database, one guy's just really good at referrals?
Yep.
Do you feel like that's
exactly
generally the mix?
Exactly.
How do your office kind of, how do they teach that to the agents in there, or is it a discussion or?
No, it's more so if that's the way that you get your business, that's the way you get your business. Yeah. We do training every week for you should be like. I think every agent should have a database of people because that's your little nest egg. You know, that's what's going to feed you down the road. But then there's people that are in our office that literally they don't have a database. They could never make 50 calls or 10 calls a day. It's like it's all social networking and things like that. So as long as it works for you and you're doing what makes you happy, then.
How about just like methods? Doing things like I don't know, like for example, I've got an issue. I have a question. Yeah. And I call John, I call Simon, I call Dimmy. Yeah. And do you feel like in Buxton like everyone's always giving like the same answer on?
Nah.
It's different.
Everyone's different.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty as well. And there's 6 or 8 of us now that are directors. It's like all of us are totally different, man. Yeah. Like you can speak to Craig and get one thing, Hass another, me. We're all a little bit different. And the way we like to do it is like just get all the little pieces of information and then make up your own mind.
Yeah. And just kind of just do it and work for it. Okay. That's very interesting to know. What do you believe success is in your eyes?
Ooh, that's a good question. I don't put it down to work because I'm one of those people that's never really going to be satisfied. Like, I always thought if I get to 500, I'm going to be, if I get to 1 million, I'm going to be, and then 1.5 million, and now it's like 2 million. It's like,
It just never ends.
it's never going to end. For me, it's probably more, how am I up here? How am I in here? And how am I physically, you know? Am I fit? Am I healthy? Have I done what's going to like fill my cup up, so to speak, today? And am I being a good person? To me, that's successful. Being able to help other people is successful. What you make, what you drive, not really for me. Because fuck man, I've never thought I'm going to be one of those people that gets like 60, 70 years old. I've always thought I'll probably get yanked from this world at a young sort of age.
Time, not a long time.
That's it.
Wow.
And if you're doing the right thing by people, then you got nothing to look back on and say, well, I wish I hadn't have been a dick to that guy, or you know.
Yeah.
So success is probably just inner for me.
That's good to know. Fair, Joe. I got one more question. So before I wrap it up, I don't want to cut you off if you have anything.
No, I think
You feel like
It's been good, boys.
Yeah, it's pretty calm.
Yeah.
All right. Well, so at the end of the podcast, you have to answer a question left by the previous guest, and then you have to leave a question for the next guest. So
Okay.
the question that's been left for you is, who's your biggest inspiration, dead or alive?
Probably my brother. He's alive. My brother. He's had his own challenges, mental health issues, just a rough shake of the sauce bottle throughout his life, and he's still got a can-do attitude, still positive. Yeah, probably my brother.
That's amazing.
I would say. You want me to leave a question?
You're going to leave a question for the next person.
Does it have to be like inspirational?
It can be whatever you want. Whatever you want.
Do you put your socks or your jocks on first?
I like that one actually. Jokes on first. Done. You're a bloody
I'm a
legend.
socks first kind of guy.
Yeah. No, I'm jokes.
Yeah, I'm good.
Yeah, I don't know why I'm socks. I don't know why.
Well, that's the thing. I'm like, you bloody spun me with that one. But hey, honestly, Simon, man, like, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I feel like for anyone listening to this, like, you provided a ton of value for them to take out of. And anybody at all, if you have any questions for Simon, hit him up. It's Simon Pintado.
Yep.
On Instagram, you'll find him if you type him on Google. You'll find his details. So give him a call if you have any real estate advice. And yeah, we'll definitely. I'd love to have you back on very soon. So thank you, man.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks, boys.
Thank you.
Legends.
You're a gun. Thank you.
That was awesome.